So the year is 1981, and you are a medical researcher. You've just identified a new virus that is causing a severe immune deficiency in patients, leaving them vulnerable to a range of infections and diseases. This virus attacks a specific type of white blood cell called ACT4 cell, which is crucial for our immune system. The virus also happens to be a type of retrovirus, meaning that it uses RNA as its genetic material rather than DNA, and this RNA is also what makes it possible for the virus to integrate itself into our DNA. But at this point, you don't know that yet. Lentiviruses are basically modified viruses that can deliver genetic material into cells. Maybe one day we will find a cure for this devastating disease. In the meantime, though, we have to continue doing the work to prevent the spread of HIV and to provide treatment to those who need it. Because as we have seen, HIV has had a devastating impact on millions of people around the world. And it is a constant reminder of the importance of global health security. And in this study, researchers used a lentiviral vector to deliver a gene called Cas9, which is an enzyme that cuts DNA along with a guide RNA molecule that directs Cas9 to the HIV DNA. And lo and behold, they were able to completely remove HIV DNA from the cells. Now this was just a proof of concept study done in a lab, so it will likely be years before this type of gene therapy is available to patients. But it's an exciting development nonetheless. You report your findings to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they issue a public health alert. A few months later, the CDC issues new guidelines for the care of patients with the so-called 436 disease, and in 1983, scientists would identify the virus that causes AIDS, and in 1985, the first cases of AIDS in Africa would be reported. Globally, more than 80 million people are living with HIV, and every year more than 650,000 people die from AIDS-related illnesses. The vast majority of people with HIV live in sub-Saharan Africa, where more than half of all new HIV infections occur. In fact, HIV has had a devastating impact on the region. It's caused a huge loss of life, overwhelmed healthcare systems, and contributed to severe economic decline, as it was being called at the time, and recommends that doctors report any suspected cases to the local health department. By the end of the year, there have been 270 cases reported in the United States and around the world. Doctors still don't know how the virus works, but they do know that it is being transmitted through sexual contact and by sharing needles. At this point, it isn't clear who is most at risk. The following year, the World Health Organization takes over coordinating the global response to the growing epidemic. So fast forward to today, but despite all of this, there have been some glimmers of hope. Since the early 2000s, the number of people dying from AIDS-related illnesses has been declining, thanks in part to the development of antiretroviral therapy, or ART, and while there is currently no cure for HIV, researchers are working on it. In fact, I recently came across this preclinical study that showed that a type of gene therapy called a lentiviral vector can remove HIV from the DNA of human cells. And who knows, if you want to better understand global health issues like HIV, stay tuned for more information.